Hello, good morning. It's Chad at Ternion Athletics again. Today I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about macronutrients. We have just recently started a challenge with a local school where a few members of the staff decided that they wanted to kind of begin a movement to make their school healthier. Anyway, so we had this discussion yesterday about how to calculate our macronutrient levels as far as what we should have on a daily basis, and so I wanted to kind of go through that with you guys today so we at least have a starting point. So macronutrients. Macronutrients, we're talking about the largest nutrient particles in our diet. Main ones we're concerned with are carbohydrate, protein, fat, and water. Now, the way we're going to go about determining how many of each of these macronutrients that we need is going to be based on our lean body mass and our activity levels. So let's just use the average, for easy math, we'll use a male weighing 200 pounds, and let's say we did a body fat calculation on this particular male, and he's got 20% body fat. Okay, so if I were to calculate that out, means that 40 pounds of this gentleman's 200 is body fat. So we take 200 minus 40 and we end up with 160. Right? So we've got 160 pounds approximately of lean body mass that we are going to support with our macronutrient intake. Okay, so if you have been a client of mine before, you know that I believe and teach a combination of the zone method of eating along with a paleo or primal diet, and so what we're looking at here is a macronutrient breakdown of, well, I guess ratio here of 40% carbs, 30% protein, and 30% fat. So what this means is that we're going to take our lean body mass and we are going to come up with a macronutrient prescription that is going to match this particular ratio here. So in Dr. Sears' book, The Zone Diet, he talks about, or he uses this unit of measurement called a block. Okay, so one block equals, I'm just going to write below here, 9 grams of carbs, 7 grams of protein, and depending on what source you look into, you're going to see 1.5 to 3 grams of fat. I always encourage more fat in the diet than less. So if I'm doing this, I'm always going to, or most of the time, I'm going to be saying that we want to have 3 grams of fat in our block. But you play around with that and see what works for you. Let me adjust this a little bit. Okay. All right. So we've got one block. It was 9 grams of carbohydrates, 7 grams of protein, and we'll say 3 grams of fat. So we're going back to our 200-pound man who has 160 pounds of lean body mass that we're trying to support. There is an activity factor in the calculation that we're going to use. And basically, if you do 2.5 to 3 hours of exercise in 1 week, then your activity factor is 0.8. So 0.8 times 160, that would be 128. So 128 pounds is what we're going to use to determine the macronutrient prescription for this individual. So I take 128. This number actually is the number of grams of protein that we want this particular person to have. So we're going to take this block formula here, where we know that 7 grams of protein exists in one block. So we want to figure out how many blocks is it in 128 grams. So we'll take 128 divided by 7. 7 and 5, 8. It gives me 8 times 7, 18, 8 times 7, 56. 56 and 2. So it came out to be just about 18 blocks. So for this 200-pound man, in order to provide him enough macronutrients to sustain his lean body mass, we want to put him on an 18 block per day prescription. Okay, so 18 blocks. Let me erase this. Ooh, cold weather and whiteboards do not go together. So let's see here. This, I'm just gonna smear it all over the place. So we got 18 blocks. So 18 times 9 is 162 grams of carbs. We know that we have 128 grams of protein, and I'll take 18 multiplied times 3, and that gives me 54 grams of fat. All right, now the only thing left we have is our water. So general formula for water is take our body weight, divide it by 2. 100 do times 1.25, so we want 125% of that. So we have 125, that's going to be in ounces. So as a bare minimum, if you're training actively, we want 125 ounces a day in water for 200 pounds. And you can calculate this by taking your body weight, divide it by 2. It gives you a number. Take that number, figure out 25% of it and add it to it, and then that will be your water prescription. So as an example, again, 200-pound man, 162 grams of carbohydrates, 128 grams of protein, 54 grams of fat on average in the daily diet. Again, we realize that day to day we're going to have fluctuations, ups and downs in this macronutrient target, but if we're looking at it from a few steps back, we should see a pretty consistent line and average. So if you have a day where you derail, don't worry about it. There's always a chance to get it back. I appreciate your time. Let me know if I can help you.